Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Welcome everyone to Intergovernmental Affairs and Strategic Priorities. We're going to call the meeting to order. Any conflicts of interest?
None.
Oh,
See none. Approval of the agenda.
Good.
Approved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councilor Rivera. Thank you. Approval of the minutes.
Yeah, good.
Approved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councilor Rivera. Report discussions. We got Doug Dumas in today. You can see Doug sits in with the Youth Engagement Committee, and he just, as we suggested the last time, maybe we can get some reports 2 or 3 times a year. And Doug, if you don't mind, it's up to you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Ramsey. So the Youth Engagement Committee has met pretty consistently. I think they haven't missed a meeting since they formed
Good.
a few months ago, I believe in May. So they did meet on Friday, October 22nd, and the minutes will be included in the regular meeting council package, which I think there was one meeting that they weren't included in recently, but they have still been meeting. So in the most recent one, 5 of the 7 members were in attendance, and they were discussing mainly an event that they're putting on in partnership with Fusion Charlottetown. So that's another youth group. I believe their mandate is to work with youth ages 18 to 40.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Fusion Charlottetown considers youth. And it's essentially a civic engagement event. So it's planned to be around the 1-year date from the election to kind of involve youth in whether they want to run or how to get involved in other ways than just voting. But obviously voting is one of the main priorities of the event. It's a series of events. The first one is taking place from 6 to 8 p.m. on November 8th, 2021, and that's at the Poor House above the Old Triangle in Charlottetown. And Fusion Charlottetown is doing all the details. The Youth Council is in a supporting role, but also I believe Lucas MacArthur, the chair, will be there to give a short presentation on essentially the role of the city, what the city does, how youth can get involved in municipal, in their municipal government, that sort of thing. So there's going to be invited speakers, some live music, and other kind of activities. There is no request for funding from this committee at this time. This was something that is being funded generously by Fusion Charlottetown. I think they have some partners who are helping them put it on.
Doug, is this open to council and everybody?
Yeah, it is unfortunately the night of the regular meeting of council.
Oh, okay.
I think it's not like an invite-only scenario, but we'll have Lucas there, and I'll be there as a representative of the city, though I don't believe I'll be speaking, but
No.
I can report back on how that goes at the next meeting
Great.
as well. The Youth Engagement Committee is also preparing to forward a recommendation to this committee and the Planning and Heritage Committee on short-term rental regulation. I don't think that is something that I've mentioned before, but it's essentially just support for the recommendation that was forwarded by the planning staff for the upcoming public meeting. So that will be coming in the next few days, I believe. The Youth Engagement Committee, that housing was identified as a priority in the report that was prepared a few years ago now, the youth report. So that's something that's just part of that discussion.
So they're looking for our support on that?
They are essentially just forwarding a
Information.
motion that is essentially that the Youth Engagement Committee is in support of the recommendation put forward by the planning department to proceed with scenario 1 out of the 5 scenarios. So that is going both to strategic priorities because that's the Youth Engagement Committee falls into strategic priorities, but it also goes to planning just because it would be part of the official record, essentially.
Good. Any questions on that, guys?
You want to go first, Councillor Twin?
No, you go ahead.
Can I just get again the date, November 8th, did you say?
Yeah. November 8th, 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
It's in your first
That's
paragraph.
6 to
8.
It's in your paragraph.
Yeah. The other thing too, Doug, if you're Stats Canada, I know Fusion is a group that's related to youth, but Stats Canada looks at youth from 14 to 29.
So
How do you melange or bring those two differences together?
can reach out to Fusion Charlottetown and ask them
Could
how
you?
they established their youth, what their definition of youth is. But I think, it can be quite an expansive term, and I think it's good to be inclusive. I know that the Youth Engagement Committee, I believe, is sort of 18 to 24, 16 to 24.
Right.
I know that's in their terms of reference, so I can't exactly speak to how they
No.
will marry those things
No,
in.
not
that
asking,
specific event.
just a general comment. Because I know our youth advisory committee in the past, I think at the initial start of this advisory committees, at one point, I think the average age was about 48.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a youth advisory committee,
No.
I think it was a middle-age advisory committee.
That's the new 24, your worship.
So, the recommendations, again, the recommendations related to STR, regulating STR, they're just recommendations. They're not binding council to what they're recommending. It's just, it's again, a recommendation, just like any of the other advisory boards. I think you'll see with the Affordable and Accessible Housing Advisory Committee, they will be recommending a scenario 1 or scenario 2 also. Again, just recommendations. Thank you.
Councillor Twill?
I'll go ahead, Dick.
Just to conclude as well, just an update on other discussions that are happening. That there are continuing discussions on challenges facing youth in Charlottetown. So that includes employment, mental health, and access to public washrooms, including something that they're starting to work on, which is a list of accessible and gender-neutral washrooms in Charlottetown. So that should be something that might have a budgetary request as well, just to make sure that we can have something that might be designed or easy to print out and handed out at the tourism office or something. But those conversations are ongoing, and I can provide further updates at later meetings.
Okay.
Please let me know if you have any questions.
Councillor Twill?
Yeah, but the mandate of Future Charlottetown, Fusion Charlottetown, the two different mandates, I don't know, I mean, you're talking a discrepancy there in terms of age differential. So, I thought the youth engagement was strictly independent and would look at different issues here in the city, or improvements or enhancements they would like to see. So, now there's nothing wrong with partners, but there is an age differential. So, I'm not sure how that plays out.
Yeah, because if I may, when we started this in 2014, I think you and I were both on it at that time too. And it's, the age group was 16 to 24, 16 to 26. Like when you're pushing the 38 to 40, I mean, like we all like to be 38 to 48 again, but it isn't a youth thing, I don't think it is. But that's just my opinions on it.
Sure.
Gregory?
I'm 48 now, so it's not about being 48 again.
No, I'm saying 16 to 16, 28. No, you like, and that's the thing. So you said you're gonna check with them, see why they've got such a wide range in age?
Sure. And maybe to address some of that concern is this is not so much that the city is putting on an event with Fusion Charlottetown.
No,
It's that the Youth Engagement Committee is attending to make sure that their presence and that the interests of the Youth Engagement Committee are at the table at this particular event.
Okay,
It was a question of, there was an event that the Youth Engagement Committee was planning and is still going to probably proceed with at some point. But it had been planned, I believe, almost the exact same date as this one, so it made sense to combine resources for this particular event. But with that being said, I don't know if there's any intention for future collaborations, or if it's just kind of a one-time thing.
all right, okay.
It's just so that they can essentially have that voice at that table. So I hope that
At Fusion Charlottetown's table?
at their event, essentially.
At their event.
Yeah, and we do have a city staff representative who sits on Fusion Charlottetown as well. We have Charlotte Nicholson
We do?
who's on their board, yes.
Didn't know that.
And I'm not sure if she's actually there on behalf of the city or if she's there independently.
Well, Mr. Chair, it's all about networking, so I think it's anywhere where we can collaborate cooperate with other like-minded organizations is a big plus for the city. Yeah, I'm just on the website. The Fusion Charlottetown website is quite impressive, and it's all up to date, very updated, and very much up to date what's going on in the city. And again, we're just invitees to their annual meeting, which I think is great. We may have some differences in how they look at age, but youth is youth, and their age category is 18 to 40, and ours is 18 to, or is it 16?
I think it's 16 to 24.
Yeah.
Check. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Doug?
Thank you.
So, on the SDR, what's the situation there?
What do you mean?
They're gonna send in a recommendation that there's 5 lists, the 5
Scenarios.
scenarios,
Yeah.
and they're gonna put their stamp on one of them.
The one recommended by plan.
Yeah, from what I understand, Mr. Chair, as hearing from Doug, that they are going to back the recommendation from staff of going to option 1.
Optional. Scenario 1, yeah.
Now, we as council do not have to follow
Council,
that.
it's just a recommendation
It's just
Well, where's it
recommendation.
goes from where? From the Youth Engagement Committee to this committee?
to the council, I believe. Is that
I
what?
presume that will
what?
go as part of the planning package, Your Worship. Again, when they hold the public hearing, I presume that they'll be making their points there, and that will become part of the package for planning that will proceed forward.
Yeah, so the motion that would be going forward, it does go to this committee because this committee oversees the Youth Engagement Committee. I didn't want it to go over, around the strategic priorities and go directly to planning.
But it will go to planning from
From
once they
strategic
finish,
priorities.
yes.
So we have the option of saying we support that or not, like before it goes to planning,
And
this committee.
I believe so, but I believe also that if it's just forwarded to the planning department as well, they would include it in their public record where they contain all the documents that are submitted in support of or against the recommendation.
Mr. Chair, we're not endorsing the recommendation, they're just making a recommendation.
That's
I'm not here to endorse the recommendations
No.
from advisory boards. If it's a monetary or fiscal decision, I would be involved, but this is
That's right.
something that Lucas MacArthur or Sam McLean bring it up on November 9th and say, I support scenario 1, that's great.
Yep.
But it comes back to council to decide what scenario we go with, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, after all the information's received.
We can't endorse anything anyways.
No.
Because we have to send it to
must remain
council.
neutral
That's right.
in order to vote,
We gotta stay
right? So
neutral.
Yeah, and so if we endorse it here, then we have to send a resolution to council.
We
That's
can't-
precluding
we
the
can't
public
endorse.
consultation. We're not.
No, that's right.
They're not asking for that, are they, Doug? No, I think it's clear.
just,
Okay,
It's information. Thank you, Doug.
Great,
thank you, Doug.
thank you.
Good job.
No other questions for Doug?
And any questions, Steve?
Thank you again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. MGA, section 107E, council disclosure statements. They are talking to Chantel and Peter on this. This is gonna have to be filled out every year, am I correct, Chantel, now?
Yes, by November 30th every calendar year.
Every calendar year. Before we did it, as we all remember, I think after we elected,
Just one time, but now it has to be done every year as per the change in the MGA, Mr. Chair.
Is the province proposing this?
So it's the MGA?
It's already passed in the MGA worship, and this now is law that the council must fill it out every year.
I'm looking
by
at it.
November 30th? Oh, I'm sorry, your worship.
Under section 107 2E, Your Worship.
So you want my financials, like, does the house do that?
It doesn't matter what the house says, Your Worship.
Oh, no, the house sets them, they enact the MGA. Are they not doing that every year?
I'm not sure, Worship, but our law is that we must obey, and council must do this.
When was this passed?
It was passed in the spring.
It came out in the spring when they made the amendments to the MGA.
So, geez, I thought you told me that they weren't gonna make any amendments to the MGA for 20 years.
No, they're also in the works of reviewing it for next year's amendments as well, but in the interim, this has been a change, and council has to adhere to this change.
And that's every council right across.
Council member, including the mayor.
And is this for all municipalities?
Yes. Yeah, the acts for the whole island.
No problem.
Councilor Jerome, do you have any questions on this?
No.
You're good with it?
Well, no, I'm not good with it, but if we do it,
What's that?
Sorry, Bobby, you faded out the last part of your comment there.
no, I just said, we filled it in 4 years ago, but if something has to be done every year.
That's
Wait,
all, I'm
wait,
gonna resubmit. It's just what I submitted 4 years ago.
Like, your worship, it has to be current and accurate, your worship.
It's current.
Current numbers and current valuations, your worship.
So is this all public?
It is part of the public record, yes.
But if you're,
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Rivera.
we should be doing this. I mean, I don't have a problem with it, I know I don't.
Oh, I don't either, because I own nothing.
But something can happen within that 4 years, and, if you're not expected to disclose it, then there's a problem, and I have zero problem doing it myself. Things have changed in my career, and I certainly don't mind updating my.
So we're basically going from a 4-year tender to every year by November 30th.
By the 30th of,
Was there any additions made to the disclosure?
there are some changes.
Oh, there is some changes. Okay, what are the changes?
It's just more laid out as to how they want the information portrayed, Counselor. It's in your package there.
Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward. It's just on your asset, income, sources.
They don't ask for your financials, they don't ask for that information.
No,
With
just
regards to, they ask for any interest into housing or things of that nature, if you're.
And your spouse's place of employment, no shall.
Correct. It's really there to protect us as well. It's not there to share so much for the share of the public, they can start rumors, it's there to protect us and be full disclosure.
Yeah.
And basically, to make a long story short, if your lifestyle never changed since you last did it, it's all the same.
Again, if you own the same home,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, and you have the same spouse and she had the same job.
Well, she'd like to trade in her spouse, mine anyway, but that's the start point. Yeah, but if everything was